Have you ever felt stuck in your growth journey, wondering how to build resilience in the face of challenges?
Or maybe you're looking to shift your mindset and unlock your full potential.
Well, if you said yes, then you are in the right place.
Welcome to the Stretch Zone. I'm Hannah.
And I am Feds.
And here we explore self-development, nurture resilience, and embrace the mindset shifts that help you grow beyond your limits. Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's Hannah here and my lovely co-host, Feds.
Hi.
If you're watching the video, she is there in a completely brightly lit room, but for some reason, the camera is making her look like she's had a blackout.
Yeah, I'm in a cave.
And lives in a cave.
Exactly. I don't know what's happening today, but hey, it is what it is. We'll work with what we have.
We work with what we've got, and it really shows our time zone difference.
Yeah.
And the first thing that Fed said to me was, it must be really cold where you are, because I'm wearing this huge bear jumper. And it's always a surprise even to myself, even though this is my third winter here in Atlanta, just how cold it does get.
Yeah. I can imagine. Well, it's cold here as well. I mean, today, now it's 10 degrees, not too bad, but it's going to get colder. Now we're getting towards Christmas, so it's that time of the year. At least you feel Christmassy. I remember in Florida, I was not feeling Christmassy at all.
I do, and I am going to admit something here. We put our Christmas tree up on the 1st of December. That is the earliest I have ever done it in my whole entire life. But you've got to get in there quick because we get a real tree. They all disappear because people buy them for Thanksgiving here in the US, which is obviously in November.
Yeah.
So you start to see all the trees disappearing and you're like, oh, hang on, I want to get a good one too. So every year we've got it earlier and earlier. And this year we put it up on the 1st. It's nice having a cold Christmas again.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Isn't it a psychological trick, though, the fact that all of these companies are putting out all this Christmas stuff early, and like after, I'm not joking, like just after Halloween in Italy. I mean, we don't even celebrate Halloween. After Halloween, the Christmas decorations were already everywhere. And I was like, they are definitely pushing it a little bit too much. But, I know my brain. And so I'm like, I need to control myself. I know that this is just a tactic to just push me to buy things that I don't really need. So,
and Feds has got some wonderful learnings for us all today about how our brain works, specifically to do with learning languages.
mm-hmm.
And, I'm one of those annoying people that says, I'm not good at languages. And Feds is going to try and prove me wrong. And anyone else out there that puts themselves in that category of I'm just not good at languages, which has definitely come out of my mouth for years. We are talking about the mindset that we need as we're going into learning languages.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt incredibly guilty that I don't know another language fluently, or at least a little bit fluently, because my father is from Switzerland. He can speak at least sort of 5 languages pretty reasonably, and a couple of those really well. Swiss German, French, English, obviously, and he can get by in Italy as well. He knows a little bit of Spanish, and he relates everything back to the Latin origins and likes to tell me about that. And my mum, she also speaks French. And my dad would always say that her French is better than his. I think he just likes to sit back and let her speak French when they
do the job. Yeah.
So he's like, oh, do you know what? I'll relax my language skills and let her take the lead on this one. But yes, my father used to speak to both of us, my brother and I, apparently in Swiss German when we were really little. And I know that when I was probably before the age of 10, I do remember going on holiday to Switzerland and understanding quite a bit or a little bit. But after that, my dad said, we would just speak back to him in English.
Yeah.
And there are some other reasons that we like to come up with, which are that my dad was at university when I was really young, so he was trying to perfect his English. The common language in our household was English, and outside of the house, my mum didn't speak Swiss German or German. And some people say when it's the mother tongue, and my mum probably was more with us as littlies than my dad, that can be a bit more helpful, but they definitely persist with us. And it's something that I almost feel a bit ashamed of, that I can't speak another language.
I think that when it comes to kids, I'm really excited about this topic, by the way. So I'm trying to go like straight to the point, and I'm not going to ramble around because I could go on for hours on this. But I have many friends who are in situations like similar to yours, where maybe one parent is from one country, the other parent is from another country, and it really something that needs to be taken case by case, because for example, a couple of friends of mine, they're both Italian, they live in the UK, they speak in Italian at home. Of course, the kid goes to British English speaking nursery, but she does speak only English at home. Like now she's in a stage where she's like, nope, I don't want to speak in Italian. English is the language I chose, and so that's going to be it. Now, when it comes to bilingual kids, there's a whole different conversation to have, because there are a lot of variables involved. What I focus on mostly in my coaching practice is adults, especially people like you, because you mentioned at the beginning, I'm not really good at languages. I'm terrible at languages. And I have these kind of conversations all the time, because one thing that I told you just before we started recording is that people don't understand how they actually learn. And I think it's important to have a minimum idea, a foundation of how the brain is. Disclaimer, I am not a neuroscientist, but I've done a little bit of research, of course. I've read books. I'm a neurolanguage coach. So part of our course was learning a little bit about the brain, of course. And one thing that people often forget is that, or maybe they don't know, many different parts of the brain are involved in the language learning process, right? So there is a part of memorization. So of course, you're going to have to find new words. Your brain needs to encode them and store them for later. You're going to have to make some decisions while you are speaking. So what kind of verb do I need? What kind of vocabulary do I need? What kind of tense, sentence structure? So there's a decision process in course. You need to listen. You need to be able to understand sounds, distinguish tones, intonation patterns. So that's another part of the brain. You need to move your mouth. The muscles that we use when we speak are often different depending on the language. If you are speaking English and then you try and speak Italian or Spanish or Chinese, you're going to have to use completely different muscles. So you have to learn how to use those muscles, your vocal cords, how you breathe as well. And then all of this needs to become a routine, right? So when people come to me and they're like, I've been studying English for so long, for so many years. I know the grammar. I understand when I read, but then when I speak, I'm never fluent. And I'm like, well, thank you very much. You are trying to use a part of your brain that is different. Like when you read, you're not doing the same thing that you need to do when you are speaking. So you need to physically use a different part of your brain. And people don't think about it straight away. They're like, I'm watching Netflix. So I've been watching Netflix for 10 days straight. Why am I not improving my speaking? Well, that's why. Right? So there are a lot of different things that we do. And there are some myths and misunderstandings that people have when they get into studying a language. The first one is that passive input alone is enough. And this is something that people struggle with a lot, because even in your first language, you most likely know and understand a lot more words than you can actually use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's normal, because let's be honest, we don't talk about a million topics every day, right? We normally have the same kind of conversations with our family members, with our boss, with our colleagues. If you work in a hospital, of course, you're going to be very well prepared on medical terminology. If you work in law, you're going to have a very good understanding of that kind of vocabulary. Yeah. But you can't, and this is the same even for native speakers, but often when people come to me, they have this idea that, oh my God, native speakers are perfect. They know every single word in the dictionary. And I'm like, do you know every word in the dictionary in your first language? No, because that's not how it works. So practicing these active skills like speaking and writing, it is always a little bit more challenging, because you actively need to create something with your brain. It's like watching a marathon and understanding the concept behind it. You say, right, yes, I understand that these people are running.
Yeah.
Does it make you able to run a marathon?
Yeah. That's a really, really great example that you're giving. And you know what was coming up for me as you were talking, because I have a musical background, and I know that actually if you're able to learn a musical instrument, then you are able to learn another language. I know that there's a link. And the way that you were describing the learning that is required to learn another language, it was like describing how to learn how to play a musical instrument. Really similar, you know. You have to learn the scales, you have to learn the notes, you have to be able to read the notes, you have to be able to then, whatever instrument you're playing, figure out how your body reacts with the instrument and how it can change the sound depending on how you do it. So learning the muscles of the mouth, for example, learning the muscles with your fingers or your mouth, depending on whatever it is that you're playing. Really resonated with me because of my musical background. I was just like, yes, okay. So maybe it's more that my passions were, I want to learn a musical instrument rather than I want to learn another language. And being an English native speaker, we are also absolutely, let's just face it, we're in this position where it's friggin' convenient that I learn English. I'm the classic person that, you know, if one person tries to, if I remember going to France in particular, because we went to France a lot when I was younger, and attempting to speak in French, the same in Vietnam when I lived there, attempting to speak in Vietnamese. If they can speak English, they'll just immediately start speaking English to you. So it was a really convenient way for me to go, I'm not good at this, I'm not going to improve, there's no need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is like, there's definitely some privilege here. And I see that, you know, with my partner as well here in Italy. Every single time he tries to speak in Italian with someone and people are like, oh, but you speak English. Oh, I really want to practice my English. Let me speak in English to you. And I'm like, no, let him speak in Italian, because that's exactly what's supposed to happen, right? So unless you need to be very clear with the person you are speaking with and just specify, say, like, this is my moment. Let me speak in your language. Then we can practice, right? But right now, I really want to give it a go. And of course, a lot of people feel intimidated, they feel scared, they don't want to make the mistake, and so they grab the chance as soon as it comes, you know, and just say, okay, yes, we're going to speak in English. One thing that you mentioned when you said, well, you have to learn, you know, all different kind of elements, which it happens in languages as well. It happens in pretty much every single thing, right?
If when you're learning something new.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you are learning, it's like building blocks. It's like building, a Lego thingy, right? So It's pretty much the same thing. At the beginning, when you don't know anything, and going back to the Lego thingy, imagine like you are, I don't know, you are building the Harry Potter castle, whatever. When you first start building it, you can immediately see that something is taking shape, right? Because there was nothing before. And with languages is exactly the same. As soon as you start learning something, you're like, oh my gosh, I see an improvement. I can say numbers from 1 to 10. I can talk about what I bought yesterday at the supermarket. But the higher you get to a level, to a higher level, the harder it is to actually see and feel a real improvement.
Yes, absolutely.
Same thing with the Harry Potter castle, right? When you are just about and you are, polishing the details and adding the last bricks, you're not going to see a massive difference. And so this is something that people often struggle with. They're like, well, I'm stuck. I've reached a point where I don't see any kind of improvement anymore. And this can be very frustrating because you think you've reached a plateau. It's actually called the intermediate plateau. You think you have reached a point. I've been there. It's really frustrating. And normally what it means is that you are on the verge of a massive breakout. So you just have to be patient and hang in there and keep on doing all the things that you have done, so far. One thing that I want to say, though, is that when people come and tell me, oh, I'm really not good at languages, like you are telling me, you told me that at the beginning.
Yeah.
What makes you think that you are not good at languages?
Absolutely agree. It's a great thing for me to sit back and actually think about. And already just from our discussion from the last 10 minutes, I've started to realize that it isn't that I'm not good. I have not pushed myself through those barriers. So it has been very easy as an English speaker to opt out of the discomfort areas. For example, everyone tends to be able to speak English. Therefore, I haven't pushed through those first barriers that people like yourself would have had to have pushed through. You would have had the same experience when you first moved to England. Although I'm going to guess your English was already a better level than I learned French at school, than my French ever was to move there. But I would have thought there would have been really scary moments that you would have been really frustrated and really finding challenging. And I've never had to push through that. So I've never had to actually test whether I'm capable. Really, truly capable. That's actually the truth when I really think about it. And when we're discussing it again here, of course, it's like learning anything else that's new. And I learned how to play the violin growing up. I was about 6 or 7, I think. Maybe I was 8 when I started learning. I would have sounded terrible. And I remember our neighbours, once I hit probably grade 6, so we're talking at least 50 years in, they finally said, oh, it's starting to sound good now.
It takes time. It takes
how long it takes. For goodness sake, if you want to be good at something, you've got to put time and energy and effort in.
Yeah.
Other thing is that look, I'm dyslexic, so there's already something there that's telling. Well, one, I struggle with the English language itself. I can speak it pretty fluently and eloquently, and but when it comes to reading and writing, that's challenging. So yes, I have that extra challenge, but also the fact that I know that I'm dyslexic, I've already got preconceived ideas about my capabilities. It's something that I'm somewhat proud of, and I'm not proud of being dyslexic, but I have never been really, really annoyed by my dyslexia, because luckily I also have the ability to see that it gives me a different way of thinking. It means that I'm actually very creative, and there are good things about being dyslexic. The neurodiverse brain can think outside the box. So I can see that there's positives with it, but I do think just the label of dyslexia is still a little chip on my shoulder. So there is that I'm bringing forwards too, in terms of learning another language. I can't even read and write my own language perfectly, so how could I do that with it? So I'm bringing that through.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that I think a lot of people just don't push themselves through the discomfort part.
No,
Therefore,
definitely
it's just
not.
like, it's easier just to say, I'm not good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to being dyslexic, I've worked with some of my clients. They're dyslexic. My partner is dyslexic. English is definitely not the easiest language to work with when you are dyslexic. From also, like, the major issue is that pronunciation doesn't match the spelling. And
Yes.
so, of course, when you are trying to put together the two things, you're like, hey, there's something that my brain doesn't really recognize. I struggle, and I'm not dyslexic, so I can imagine it must be very challenging. But for instance, Italian is the opposite. So he found himself reading pretty fluently in Italian because the pronunciation is the same all the time. So you don't have to guess. Of course, and I know a lot of Italian people who didn't even know they were dyslexic or mildly dyslexic until they started actually studying English, because that's when it came out.
Maybe I'm not dyslexic. Maybe it's just the English language.
Maybe.
I'm 41 and I've just discovered I'm not dyslexic.
But like I think, like, the reason why we are talking about this, it's my area of expertise, and of course I love talking about it. But it's not just about the language itself; is the kind of impact that it has on a person's life. Because especially if you are in your own country and you have to start working in another language, it is very challenging.
Because you're not surrounded.
No, exactly. You're not surrounded by the language that you have to use. Probably you've never used it before in a business setting. If you are the kind of person who moved to another country, then there is also an additional layer of complexity when it comes to the culture, the accents, the different kind of unsaid messages and signals that people share. Most of the communication doesn't even happen with spoken words. So body language. That are very big impacts on a person's life. And so when I think about personal development, when I think about mindset, when I think about growth mindset, this is where it starts from for me. Because as like you said, giving yourself, and now I use inverted commas, excuses,
Yeah.
not to push yourself and do something. It actually, it's going to have an impact, and your mindset is a fundamental part of how you do it. How do you actually approach learning a new thing? So I found myself through the process when I learned English. I studied a few other European languages. I started learning Chinese, and I'm taking a break right now, but I definitely want to go back. But I'm actually curious, in your experience, because you lived in Vietnam.
Yeah.
How was it for you? And how much did the language barrier had an impact in your life?
Obviously, there were moments that it would have been so useful to know the language. However, it also proves that how amazing you can get by without knowing the same language. Because, I lived there for 3 years, and not all of the people that I hung out with were native English speakers. Most of the people I hung out with did speak English to me. But let's say, for example, I had someone in my life who, I wouldn't say that he became my best friend, but he started out as my Seom driver, which is a motorbike taxi man. So I lived in Vietnam for 3 years. Sang, his name was Sang. He could speak very minimal English. And he would sort of try and teach me a couple of Vietnamese words. But we could get by to the point where we helped each other out. So then
Mm-hmm.
he didn't just become my Seam driver. In the end, he would literally help me with things. And yes, there was an exchange of money that continued quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but he went out of his way to really look after me. And that had been over time building a friendship together without
Yeah.
the ability of being able to speak each other's languages really fluently. So we could figure it out by just knowing certain words, phrases, and then you as a native English speaker start to actually adapt your English so
Yeah.
that they can understand more
Yeah.
in the way that they are pronouncing things. So I would adapt how I would form a sentence. I would make it much simpler, and even then say things in, I guess it's been English, it becomes more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can just learn to adapt things really well. And I definitely tried to learn some words. It was very useful for me to know numbers,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Vietnam, because you can haggle with the price for everything. And then I started to be able to learn how to say things like "I live here."
Good.
So that would usually that they'll be asking for like 3 times the price for something, even if it's
Yeah.
water. And I can't remember how to say it now, but I basically learned how to say certain phrases like,
Mm-hmm.
that's too much, I live here. And then they
Mm-hmm.
start to realize that they can't scam me on that, and then
Yeah.
price down to not quite
Yeah.
prices, but almost.
But see, I think this
Way
is
through
a
that.
this is a good demonstration. It's a good proof of the fact that when you needed to communicate with someone, when you needed something that could make your life easier,
Yep.
that's exactly when your instincts kicked in, and somehow you learned
Yep.
those phrases, right? So that if you've learned a few phrases, that means that you can learn more. And if you can learn more, all of these idea that, oh, I'm not good at languages, it doesn't really stand anymore. What really pisses me off when it comes to the system is that, of course, teachers, and I really highlight these teachers, do not, can't, and do not put any effort into personalizing whatever they do. And on one side, I understand why that is, because if you have a class of 20, 30 kids, you can't teach a language differently to every single one.
Mm-hmm.
However, you are now in a stage in your life where you don't need to work with a teacher anymore. You can learn a language in a gazillion ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a way that works well for your brain, and someone can actually help you with that. Like, that's why there are coaches like me. And I don't hate teachers, don't get me wrong, but teachers have the main difference between a teacher and a coach is that a teacher normally does not really give you agency, does not ask you, how do you want to learn? What is the best way for your brain to assimilate a bunch of information? While that's exactly what I do. Like, it's part of my job to make you as independent as possible as a learner, and to bridge the gap between all the things that you want to learn and the inability to do that, because probably no one ever asked you, how do you
No.
learn? What kind of material do you enjoy? Are you the kind of person who likes to talk about something? Do you prefer to listen? Do you prefer to watch? Do you prefer to read? So that's something that I really want to point out. There is 100% a way for you to learn in a brain friendly way for you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense what you're talking about, and makes me feel much more sort of keen and excited at the idea of tackling learning another language. It definitely was something that I really wanted to do when I was younger. And then I think I just was like, it's not going to happen for me.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, as I said, like, I think I have these kind of conversations with non-native speakers because, of course, they have to learn English. Although I have to say, a few weeks ago, I was at a party and I met a lovely person, and they're American and they are learning Italian. And we ended up in this conversation and they were like, oh, well, I'm really motivated. Like my family is originally from Italy. I really want to learn Italian. And I was like, well, this is actually probably one of the first times that I'm hearing an English speaking person so excited to learn another language. So I think if you have the right motivation and if you
Yes.
feel that if you were in Vietnam and let's say you really needed
Yeah,
to
if I
learn
was, if I
Vietnamese.
knew I was staying there really like long time, I never thought I'd be there for 3 years. The idea was to stay for 1 year. So it was just like, oh, okay, another year, another year, another year.
Yeah.
But I agree that even if I knew at the beginning I was staying for 3 years, I do think I would have put more energy into it. However,
Yeah.
like you learning Chinese,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's particularly different.
Challenging. Yeah. It's challenging. 100%.
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I would have put more energy into it because
Mhm.
I would have had a bit more motivation. Yes.
Yeah. One thing that is definitely important is, I mean, probably some of my clients may listen to this episode, or maybe people who are studying languages or maybe they have to move abroad
Yeah.
and they need to study a language.
Yeah.
The best tip that I can give them is find a way to feel more independent as a learner. Rather than depending on someone. And there is a very simple scientific reason. The exact moment when you feel that you have the power to make a choice, you feel more engaged, you feel more motivated, your brain starts producing dopamine, the whole learning process becomes a lot easier. When you start studying with someone and the person you are studying with doesn't give you any kind of chance to choose the material, the method, the pace, you are not feeling empowered. You don't feel like you actually have a say in what you are doing. And that's already the beginning of the end. So that's really the best tip I could give to anyone who is in this situation. Like, find someone who asks you, how do you like to learn? What kind of material do you like to use? What do you enjoy talking about? Is this working? No? Okay, let's change. That's fine. We can do something else. And then, of course, making mistakes is part of the process.
Yes.
That's something that we can't avoid, unfortunately. Sorry, guys.
No. and look, I've definitely been there with that. I remember trying to say my address in Vietnamese and trying to tell the taxi or the motorbike taxi where to go. And I thought I was saying it correctly like 10 times. And then by the 11th time, they finally catch on to what I was saying.
What you were trying to say.
And I'd be like, yes, that's what I've been saying the last 10 times.
Yeah. But see, you still remember that because something happened and it's anchored. Yeah. So if you guys are listening, let us know. Like, have you ever been in this kind of situation? And it could be, one of those moments where you feel like your brain just froze a moment. Or maybe you are trying to learn another language and it's proving to be more challenging than you thought, for instance.
I always used to say how impressed, because I was actually an English teacher in Vietnam, and listening to what you're talking about is definitely putting me to shame. It wasn't my life's passion to be an English teacher. I did it to live in Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different episode. We can talk about it in another episode, but there are plenty of teachers.
Oh yeah.
My
worst nightmare.
Yeah, and then again, it's not just the teachers; it could be the coaches as well. But yeah, it happens.
But I think it's really interesting to now like think about, I could have thought about these types of things whilst I was teaching at that time. I think it's really interesting.
But I mean, This applies to anything, by the way. So it's not just English. I think there's a deeper layer to learning and sharing knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yes. But thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thanks so much for sharing all of your insight and your knowledge, and your passion is really, really clear. You know,
thank you.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It really shines through.
Thank you.
Yes, if anybody relates at all to some of the things that we've been talking about today, we love hearing from you. And please do reach out. Feds, you've got all of the links. What are they?
Oh, yes, I have the links. So, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at @thestretchzone_podcast.
See you there.
Bye.
Wrapping up today's episode, remember, you don't have to face change alone.
If you'd like to connect or learn more about working with us individually, reach out to us through our Instagram account @thestretchzone_podcast, or find our emails in the footnotes to this episode. We're here to support you on your journey, each in your own way.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Stretch Zone. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with anyone who might benefit. Until next time, keep stretching beyond your comfort zone.